Level 1, the tailor's apprentice. You learn to sew in the back of Mama Chidima's shop. She is not your mother, but everyone calls her Mama because she has been on this street longer than the third road has. You are not paid. Nobody talks about payment. Payment is a conversation for people who already know something. You know nothing yet, and everyone in this shop is aware of that fact before you open your mouth. You are 17. Or 20. Or 24, and your aunties are already doing that thing they do at family gatherings, the slow look up and down, the smile that is not a smile, the question dressed as concern. So what are you doing with yourself these days? You have learned to smile back without answering. The answer is here. The answer is this shop. They would not understand it yet. Mama Chidima does not teach with words. She does something once. She cuts a sleeve, she sets a collar, she pins a dart with 3 pins exactly placed, and she looks at you. That is the lesson. You either saw it or you did not. If you did not, you will see it again tomorrow when she does the next one. She does not repeat herself. Repeating yourself is for teachers. She is not a teacher. She is a tailor. There is a difference. You practice on scraps of Ankara and George and plain white calico. You make things nobody will wear. A bodice that is almost right. A sleeve that lies almost flat. Almost is the enemy. Almost means you unpick it and start again. You learn to unpick without damaging the fabric, because damaging the fabric means cutting into your own future. Fabric costs money. Your mistakes cannot cost money you do not have. You sweep the shop floor at closing. You arrange the fabric boards by color the way Mama Chidima likes them, not the way that makes sense to you, the way that makes sense to her. You carry her samples to customers in ABA main market and wait outside while they discuss. You fetch thread from the Egui store 3 streets away, and you learn which thread breaks under tension and which one holds. This is also the lesson. Everything is the lesson. Nobody is looking at you yet. You are in the back of the back. That is exactly where you need to be. Level 2, taking orders. Your first customers are people who already know your face. Your mother's friend Auntie Ngozi, who needs an aso-ebi outfit for her daughter's wedding in Enugu. Your neighbor's daughter who saw what you made your sister for the Owambi and pulled you aside after service to whisper, "Abeg, how much?" You are working from your room. A fairly used brother machine you bought at Aleba International that skips on heavy fabric if you push it too fast. A measuring tape on the door handle. A notebook where you write your measurements in handwriting only you can decode. Your prices are too low. Not small low, embarrassingly low. You are charging for the fabric and the zip and the thread, but not for the 4 hours you spent resetting a neckline at midnight because it was sitting 2 centimeters off center. Those hours you are giving away free because somewhere inside you there is still a voice asking, who do you think you are to charge for your time? You will silence that voice. But not yet. You learn that customers in this market are their own category of education. There is the one who brings you a picture from Pinterest of a dress that costs $400 and asks you to sew it for 5,000 naira. There is the one who approves the sample and then changes her mind after you have already cut the fabric, cut, not pinned, cut, and looks at you like the problem is yours. There is the one who collects her outfit and disappears until 3 weeks later when she reappears with a complaint about something that was her measurement and not your sewing. And then there is the one who wears your work to an event and sends you 6 referrals by Monday morning without you asking. You learn to find more of that last one. You learn to manage all the others. You learn to collect at least 60% before you buy a single yard of fabric. You learn to write everything down, the measurement, the color, the style reference, the agreed delivery date, the agreed price, the name of the person who agreed. Memory is not a contract. In this business, memory is the beginning of a disagreement. Your room is becoming a problem. The bolts of fabric on the bed. The dress forms blocking the window. The sound of the machine at night when the neighbors want quiet. Others are outgrowing your space and your space was never designed for others. This is a good problem disguised as pressure. You cannot see the good part yet. You will, later. Level 3, the brand begins. You give it a name. Choosing the name takes longer than hemming 50 dresses. You want something that carries where you are from without making you a caricature of it. Something that does not need translation in Balogun Market and does not need explanation at a showroom in Portobello Road. Something that sounds like the future of the thing you are building. You find it. You sit on it for a week to see if it still feels right. It does. You register it at the Corporate Affairs Commission. The process takes longer than it should, costs more than it should, involves more trips than it should. This is Nigeria, you were not expecting otherwise. You register it anyway. Because what you are building deserves to exist legally in the world. You build an Instagram page. You photograph your work against the cleanest wall in your apartment, morning light from the window, your friend Temi holding the phone because her hand is steadier than yours. The photos are not studio quality. The clothes are exceptional quality. People can see the difference. The page grows the way things grow in Lagos, nothing, then suddenly. A skate maker wears your dress in a video that gets 200,000 views. She did not tag you. A follower recognized the work and tagged you in the comments. By morning you have gained 900 followers and 14 DMs. You cannot fill 14 orders with your current setup. You fill 8. You fill them so well that those 8 customers become the marketing budget you cannot afford. You show at a small collective showcase in Ikeja. Not Lagos Fashion Week. Not yet. A one-night event in a gallery space organized by 4 emerging designers who pooled resources to make it happen. The press is bloggers and Instagram pages with 50,000 followers. The audience is industry adjacent, stylists, makeup artists, other designers, a few journalists who came because the invitation was interesting. Your 3 looks walk the short runway. The last one is a full Adaya cord, hand-dyed indigo fabric sourced from an Abeokuta artisan, structured blazer, wide-leg trouser, a silhouette that is simultaneously traditional and completely current. When it turns at the end of the runway, the fabric moves like water and something inside you goes absolutely quiet. That quiet is the feeling. You will spend the rest of your career chasing it. Level 4, building the business. The distance between being a good designer and running a successful fashion business is the distance between Lagos Island and Lagos mainland at rush hour, technically not far, practically another world. You find a studio space in Suralere. The rent makes your chest tight when you sign the agreement. You sign anyway because your bedroom is no longer a studio, it is a problem with a sewing machine in it. The new space has room for 2 machines, a cutting table, a fitting area with a proper mirror, and a tiny reception corner where clients can sit and feel like they are somewhere real. You hire Funmi first. She has been sewing since secondary school and her finishing work is cleaner than yours on a good day. You tell her this because it is true and because people work harder for someone honest than for someone performative. Then you hire Emeka who can cut patterns from a sketch with minimal instruction and whose spatial thinking saves you hours every week. Then a bike who handles customer communication because your own inbox has become a source of anxiety. Managing people is the skill nobody included in your apprenticeship. Funmi has a cousin's wedding every other month and needs compassionate scheduling. Emeka is exceptional but disappears into himself when he is overwhelmed and will not say so. Abike is efficient and slightly too direct with difficult customers in ways you have to quietly repair. You learn to lead each of them differently because leadership that treats everyone the same is not leadership, it is laziness wearing a policy. The production challenges are constant. The Onkore supplier in Idumota who swears the restock is coming and has been swearing this for 3 weeks. The customer who wants her CB ready in 8 days for an occasion that requires a 14-day turnaround. The power situation that forces you to run the generator for 6 hours a day and calculate that cost into every quote or watch your margin disappear quietly. You post on Instagram every day and the engagement is there but the engagement is not converting. People are liking the pictures and going back to their lives. You realize that visibility and sales are 2 different problems and you have been solving only one of them. You start adding a call to action to every post, not a desperate one, a confident one. A price. A turnaround time. A direct link. A DM to order that actually means something because a bike now responds within the hour. Inquiries start converting. Then there is the aso-ebi problem. You keep getting bulk orders for weddings, 30 pieces, 40 pieces, all the same fabric, all the same style, and you keep underpricing them because you calculate per piece without accounting for the coordination cost, the communication cost, the 3 fittings that become 6 because aso-ebi customers do not come alone. You start pricing aso-ebi as a project, not a product. Your margin on bulk orders doubles. Revenue is coming in. Costs are moving faster. You learn the difference between turnover and profit the way most Nigerian entrepreneurs learn it, from the inside of a problem, not a textbook. You find an accountant. A real one. Not your uncle's friend who does tax returns on weekends. A real accountant with a proper office and a system. She finds 3 things in your books that would have swallowed the business quietly by the end of the year. You fix them. You buy her a gift. You keep her number saved under Do Not Ignore. Level 5, Lagos Fashion Week. The email arrives from the LFW Secretariat and you read it 3 times sitting on the edge of your cutting table. This is not a small showcase in Ikeja. This is the stage. The one where the industry gathers, buyers, press, stylists, established names, the people who decide which designers get taken seriously in this market and which ones get fired under promising. You have 6 weeks. 6 weeks to produce a collection worthy of the platform that has launched every name in Nigerian fashion that currently matters. You design 26 looks. You cut 18. You finish 14. 14 strong looks are a collection. 14 right looks say more than 22 inconsistent ones. You know this because you have been studying runway collections the way you once studied Mama Chidima's hands, obsessively and silently and at every opportunity. You cast your models intentionally. You want faces and bodies that reflect the woman you are actually designing for, the Lagos woman, the Abuja woman, the Port Harcourt woman, not a borrowed aesthetic imported from somewhere that does not know her. You find them through agencies and through Instagram and through one woman you spot at the Lekki toll gate during traffic who has a posture so extraordinary that you lean out of your Uber window and hand her a bike's business card. The show is 11 minutes long. You have given 6 weeks of your life and most of your working capital for 11 minutes. You are standing backstage watching from a gap in the curtain and your hands are shaking and the last look steps onto the runway, a sculptural evening gown in handwoven oak, navy and gold, strapless, with a train that moves behind the model like something alive, and the room leans forward. You feel that lean from backstage. You feel it in your chest. The reviews come. Bella Niger runs a feature. Guardian Life includes you in a roundup. A fashion editor whose opinion shapes conversations in this industry says your construction is among the most technically accomplished she has seen from an emerging label. You read this sentence 7 times. Then you read the one blogger who says your collection felt safe, than you read that 11 times. You memorize it before you realize what you are doing. You put it down. You get back to work. Stockists call after the show. A concept store in Victoria Island. A boutique in Accra that ships across West Africa. A London retailer that carries African designers for a diaspora customer who has been waiting for exactly what you make. Your clothes are going places you have not been. Your name is traveling faster than you are. Level 6, Continental Recognition. African fashion is not one thing and anyone who tells you otherwise has not left their city. You show in Dakar at FIMA and discover that the Senegalese relationship with fabric and embellishment operates from a completely different aesthetic grammar than what you know. You are not threatened by this. You are educated by it. You come home and unpick 3 assumptions you had been building on without examining them. You collaborate with a Ghanaian Kent weaver in Bonwire whose structural innovations change how you think about the relationship between textile and silhouette. You visit a workshop in Nairobi where young Kenyan designers are doing things with beadwork and leather that have no precedent in the Lagos scene. The continent is making extraordinary things. Most of the world does not know yet. That is changing. International fashion press has discovered African fashion with the particular energy of someone arriving late to something and pretending they were always interested. The coverage is inconsistent, sometimes genuinely engaged, sometimes extractive, sometimes so reductive that it flattens 35 years of Nollywood fashion influence and a century of West African textile tradition into the word colorful. You are patient with the genuine engagement. You are firm about the reductive coverage. You have watched other designers from this continent accept any international attention as good attention and watch their work get misrepresented to audiences who then think they understand something they do not. You tell your own story. You tell it precisely. In your own words. To outlets that are willing to listen rather than just translate. A profile in a major international magazine asks if African fashion is having a moment. You correct the framing in your answer. African fashion has always been happening, you say. What is having a moment is the word's attention. Those are not the same thing. The quote gets shared 10,000 times. You're following triples in a week. This is not why you said it. But you are not angry about the outcome. Level 7, Global Stage. The Paris invitation is real. You call your mother first. She cries. You tell her not to cry. She cries more. You give her 5 minutes and then you tell her you have to go because there is an enormous amount of work to do. You are not the first African designer to show in Paris. You say their names before you begin preparing. You say them like a prayer or like a ledger, because what you are about to do was made possible by what they already did and you will not forget that. Duro Olawo. Mokio. Kenneth Ice. TB Magugu. The names that cleared ground so that your feet have somewhere to stand. The collection you bring to Paris is the most honest work you have ever made. It goes back to the beginning, to Mama Chidema's shop in Abia, to Auntie Ngozi's aso-ebi measurements in a notebook only you can read, to the Adaya artisan in Abeokuta whose hands have been turning cloth into language for 40 years. It goes forward, into what this aesthetic becomes when it has full resources and full confidence and zero apology. You name the collection Obu Ani Oru, it is a worker. Because that is what every garment you have ever made is. It works. It holds. It serves the body that wears it without asking the body to serve it back. The response is serious. Not unanimous, at this level nothing is unanimous and you have learned to distrust unanimous, but serious. Fashion editors who have been doing this for 30 years use language they reserve for work that shifts something. Your name enters a global conversation that you have been watching from the outside your entire career. You return to Lagos. This is the part people do not expect. They expect you to stay. To open an atelier in Paris or a studio in London or to relocate the operation to wherever the international attention is concentrated. You come home. The source of your work is here. The community that made you is here. The women you are designing for, fundamentally, essentially, at the root of everything, are here. You build your flagship on Akin Adesola in Victoria Island. White walls, natural light, fabric boats arranged by the logic that took you 15 years to develop. Your name above the door. Not a logo. Your name. The full thing. The legacy. 20 years. The work behind you is long enough now that young designers bring your early pieces to workshops as reference material. Students at Laspitech and Yoba Tech write dissertations that cite your construction techniques. A girl in Onitsha is learning to sew by studying your YouTube interviews and pausing at the parts where you talk about fitting. They find you at events. In comment sections. At Lagos Fashion Week where you now sit in the front row that you once could not get close enough to see. They want the formula. The specific road. The combination of decisions that produce this career from a bedroom in Surale and a second-hand brother machine from Alaba. You tell them what you actually know. Learn the craft before you perform the identity. Before the Instagram aesthetic, before the brand name, before the press release, learn to sew. Learn to cut. Learn to fit a body that does not match any standard size, which in Nigeria means learn to fit everybody because no standard size was made with our bodies in mind. The industry is full of beautiful vision boards. It is shot on people who can actually construct the bodies from scratch without a pattern. Construction is what lasts. Build your business like your creative work depends on it, because it does. Register your name. Invoice every client. Collect deposits before you buy fabric, not after. Find an accountant before you need one, not after you have already lost money you could not afford to lose. The fashion industry in Lagos is not sentimental about intellectual property or business naivety. Protect yourself from the beginning because no one else will. Stay close to your source. The further the recognition travels, the more important it becomes to know where you started and why you started there. Your distinctiveness is not an accident of geography. It is the material you are building from. Do not sand it off in pursuit of international approval from markets that will respect you more for refusing to sand it off. And make things that are true. Not things that are trending. Not things calculated for a foreign audience's idea of what African fashion should look like. True things, true to your eye, true to the bodies you are dressing, true to the textile traditions you are working within and beyond simultaneously. The work continues. It always will. Somewhere right now a girl is threading a needle in the back of a tailor's shop in Abia or Onitsha or Kumasi or Kampala. She is watching how the master tailor reads a body. She is filing it away. She does not have a brand name yet. She does not have a page. She does not have anything except the watching and the willingness and the particular hunger that this industry either fits or breaks entirely. She will figure out which one she is. Ego better. It always does for the ones who stay.